Carla, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You too, as well. I have to say, I've got your book here, and I
fabulous.
absolutely loved it.
Oh, great, thank you.
Anything to do with animals, I love anyway, but I really loved the culture and everything to do with Japan and the changing seasons as well. It was really beautiful.
It's a very important part of their culture.
yeah, and it was, and they're really quite into their cats as well.
Yes.
Yeah, quite. Did they have many dogs there, just out of interest?
Well, when I was there, I actually think dogs were more popular,
Really?
especially where I lived. Yeah, there was a mad kind of phase for sausage dogs, so everybody had a sausage dog. Yeah, it was bizarre. I think they go very much into trends there. So
yes, of course.
at the time it was sausage dogs. Now I think they've gone probably more traditional. So they like the Shiba Inus. That's very popular. When I went recently, they were everywhere.
Aren't they?
Yeah, I love them. Yeah, they're lovely, spongy fur.
Yeah. But was it now you're in Australia, I think, at the moment? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so we're living near the Great Barrier Reef in Queensland. So we can walk and kind of see the reef, which is cool. And at the moment, the temperatures has got a lot cooler, so it's bearable. But from probably about November to, let's say, May, it's intense, the heat. So I don't think, long term it's not for me, probably.
Oh, really?
I don't think I can ever get used to the heat. No way.
No, I must admit, I'm not great in the heat either. It was really hot here last week and I hated it.
Yeah, me too.
Quite excited when it rained. I was just going to ask you really to introduce yourself and talk about, because you have a blog and you also have quite a lot of travel guides out.
Yes. So I'm a published author of 2 books. My first book, I brought them along so I can show you.
Brilliant.
Because I like a bit of show and tell. So this was the first edition and it was called Pet Friendly Accommodation on Australia's East Coast.
Brilliant.
So this was done in 2011. And I'm now on the 5th edition and it's called Traveling with Pets because I realized it was a lot easier for people to search in Google, or if they went into a shop, it's a lot easier to say, traveling with pets and pet friendly accommodation. So the title has changed, but it's still the same book essentially.
And sorry, go on.
No, go on. No, you go.
I was just going to ask, does it just cover the East Coast, or are there plans to do further afield?
That's a very good question, actually, because I have been getting a lot of comments online. Are you going to do the whole of Australia? But I think it's gotten so big, even with the East Coast. If I add then the West Coast, it will make it too heavy as well to post. So not at this stage. But I mean, ultimately, I would like to. But, even this edition is I had to add another 20 pages just because the amount of pet-friendly accommodation that's opening up, which is great. So
because I guess you'd have to keep updating it quite a lot.
Every year, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much every year, maybe a year and a half. But things change, businesses close, rules change. So, and especially with COVID, So I'm hoping there's not too much change in this one because this was published probably around Christmas. So it's a new edition,
But you have a blog as well.
Yes, and that came slightly after the book, just as a means initially for me to be able to sell the book myself rather than, concentrating on the publisher selling it. But then I teamed up with, I think in the UK, they're probably called Stays. In the US, and I had been in Australia, I had to go through the US system. It's Home Away and it's now changed to VRBO. So they're one of the biggest booking platforms in the world. So then I teamed up with them to do an affiliate program because they added a pet-friendly filter, which was great, to their website. And so then I could add their content onto my blog, which has been great. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And so I'm really, I love cats, but I've never had a cat, so I'm more of a dog person.
My aunt is, I grew up with lots more dogs, but because we have moved a lot and lived in very small apartments, it's much more convenient to have cats. So I guess because of circumstance, I've kind of gravitated more towards cats. But I grew up with a crazy dog loving family.
I'm just wondering how, I mean, do you take your cats on holiday with you? I don't know if that's...
Yes, no, I did. And I didn't even think that that was really a possibility. I mean, in the UK growing up, my grandmother took her cat Elsa to the New Forest, but sadly, Elsa ran away and they could never find her again. So I was always thinking I'd never take a cat on holiday. But then when I was living in Japan, I saw so many people, you know, walking around with their cats. My friend took her cat to the bar with us one night. So then it kind of shifted my focus on, you know, you can't do this with cat, you know, it was off bounds kind of thing. And I was like, oh, maybe it's a possibility. So when we moved to Australia, and I wanted to go to the, you know, the forest or somewhere out of the city, I was like, oh, what can I do? And at the time, no one was really accepting pets, and especially cats. Cats were kind of a no-go area. And so I would kind of proposition them, you know, and say, oh, we're willing to pay a bit more of a deposit if the cat can come. You know, he sleeps with us, he's very well behaved, and we'll bring our own sheets, and kind of make them think, you know, we were a special case and would do the right thing. But since then, cats are so much more accepted in, you know, it's crazy since what the book first edition was probably published around 2011, 2012. And fast forward to 2021, it's incredible. I see on my Instagram feed so many people tag me in with cats traveling all over the place. It's incredible.
Oh, fantastic. Back to your the 3 Passports book.
Yes.
I know I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but you talk quite a lot in it. Is it Ikigai?
Ikigai. Very good.
Oh, it wasn't too far.
No, not too far.
So if I could just you to kind of just to explain that a bit for anyone who hasn't read the book, and ask if you've actually found it.
Very good question. So Ikigai is about doing something you love, and there's a very important graph that I found on the internet that kind of shows what the principles of it are. So it's 4 circles and it's a diagram, and in the middle it has Ikigai, and it's doing what you love, doing what the world needs, doing what you're good at. I can't remember the 4th one that you've asked me, but it's a combination of all of those things. So I was completely unaware of this concept throughout most of the time I was in Japan, actually. And then I kind of came across so many people that were doing this and not really making the connection. So a lot of our friends would open up restaurants. So there was a guy that we were friends with that had a bar that was called Desolation Row, and it was a reference to Bob Dylan, and he was a huge Bob Dylan fan. And you'd go in the bar and it had vinyl of Bob Dylan and all of the album covers, and he just talks to you about Bob Dylan, and this kind of became a bit of a cult place for people to go. And then there were other friends of ours that had like snowboarding shops, but would love kind of authentic made clothing, whether it was bamboo or hemp. And so they had kind of turned their passion into their job. And I was like, wow, I've never been taught that. You know, growing up in the UK, it's always kind of get a proper job, work in a bank or do something serious, not ever told to do something that you can do for love. I mean, my aunt did to a certain extent because she loved horses and she opened her riding stables. But even that was kind of frowned upon by our family because it was not considered a proper job. So and you asked me, have I found it? I think I have, probably combining my passion of animals and writing. Yeah, absolutely, I'd say I have. And as a consequence, I feel a lot more kind of happier and grounded.
Yeah,
I have a direction, I guess, is the main thing.
It kind of resonated with me because I feel like I have as well.
I'm sure.
So it's just lovely to be able to, sorry, the dog's growling. I don't know what she sees. It's lovely to be able to combine something you do for a living with something that you love as well. So I think everybody should do it, really. Everyone would be a lot
and it raises a question why we're not taught that at school or by our parents. But I guess, I don't know, we're probably so kind of driven by ambition and money, I guess, especially in Western countries. That's okay, I'm used to it. It's usually in my case. We're so driven by money and achievement and success, and the things that we value are based on those things. So I think maybe we need to change a little bit our perspective of what we value as well.
Yes, and I do think it is changing here, actually. We are now kind of not prepared to work 9 to 5 doing jobs they hate.
Yes, absolutely. I see a lot of comments on Instagram from millennials, especially, that are kind of starting up their own businesses and doing things that they love. So whether or not they make the connection that that's ikigai or not, I don't know. But it's great to see that people are kind of, you know, not thinking they have to be stuck in a 9 to 5 job that they hate.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw from your bio that you've actually got 2 cats now.
Yes. So we have Baka and Rio. We had a bit of discussion about his name. So Rio is an Egyptian male, and he came from a breeder in Victoria.
Right.
And he answered to the name Rain. And it didn't really resonate me with the name Rain particularly. So I wanted to have a Japanese name to carry on the Japanese kind of tradition. So we were looking, you know, names. So we called him Rio, which was the name of one of the head receptionists at British Hills that we worked with. And so, yeah, I don't know, it needed to be an R name so he would make the connection. And we also have Baka, who is a bottle-fed baby that we rescued from an animal rescue group. And I think he's more human than cat, probably.
Yeah, half human, half cat.
Yeah, he yells all the time.
Oh, bless. And do you still hear about, because there were the other kitties in Japan?
Yes.
So was it Nico, Aiko, and Takeshi?
Yes, so the Nico, which Iko is 1 and Nico is 2 in Japanese, and they were 2 sisters. And then there's Takashi, and there was also Meow-chan that was rescued from British Hills as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I probably hear more about Meow-chan because she's in Takayama, and I have more connection with Takayama than I do other places. But Iko and Nico got rehomed. And so Iko was the one that always wanted, she was the one that escaped, and she always wanted to go outside.
Yeah.
So she ended up being rescued by a lovely lady, or adopted by a lovely lady that wanted her as a companion for her beautiful white Mao cat. So she had a like living lover straight away. And then Nico went to a Japanese like inn. So she had this lovely kind of place to wander around and be petted by the guests. But sadly, Takashi got run over. So that was really sad.
Yeah, what a shame. Yeah. Oh, dear.
But I mean, he was very inquisitive cat. So he was, you know, if they're more adventurous, I guess the risk factor is higher.
Doing something he loved.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So what are your plans for the future?
Another good question. So I think we're headed back to Sydney probably in November time, just because we've been up here for 3 years, and it was only supposed to really be a year. So I could finish the book and get that published and concentrate only on that. But then obviously COVID happened, and it was better to stay out of cities than to go back to a city. So I think we're headed back to Sydney in November. And I mean, going back to the UK is always something that I'm kind of interested in, because obviously my relatives aren't getting any younger, so I'd like to spend some quality time with them. But then, you know, there's the issue of international pet travel again.
Yeah, I've heard, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that UK is probably one of the toughest ones to get animals.
UK and Australia is, both of them are difficult. I think the UK it's good with Europe, though. Well, maybe not now after Brexit, but it was always good with the pet passport. So as long as they had the vaccinations and they had the pet passport, they could go in and out of Europe quite easily. But if you're a non-European country, it's pretty tough.
A bit tougher, yeah. And what would be your best piece of advice for somebody travelling with pets or emigrating with their pets? I can imagine it's quite stressful.
Very stressful. Luckily, my aunt had done it several times, going from the UK to USA and the Caribbean several times doing that circle. So she was a great source of advice. But just be prepared. Do all of your research early. Yeah. Many people choose to go through like a pet travel company. But that can be expensive. We did it all ourselves, but I have a tendency to be a bit neurotic. So I did the planning, probably 6 months ahead of time, just to make sure that nothing was left, unseen. But I, photocopied all of the paperwork to the cat carrier. I had a copy myself and forwarded it to the end destination. So just making sure that you have all of the documentation is so important.
Yeah.
And just making sure that you're in constant contact with the cargo company, because often they have to be booked through a cargo company. I think in the UK it was James Cargo, and they're based at Heathrow. And out of Japan, we were dealing with Nippon Express, so they're at Narita Airport, and they were so helpful. I'd send them 3 or 4 emails per week, and they'd always respond. And just having that connection really puts your mind at ease.
Yeah, just having someone who knows the ropes. Yeah, exactly. And then finally, what book would you take? What was it if you were going traveling? What would be the one book that you would take with you to read?
Okay, so I've thought about this and I couldn't put it down to one book, so I bought several. And one for cat lovers is anything by David Michie. I don't know if you've heard him.
I've not heard of him.
So he's a South African writer, but spent a lot of time in London, and he now lives in Western Australia in Perth. And he's done the Dalai Lama's cat, and then this book, The Art of Purring. So they're cat books with like a spiritual kind of message.
Oh,
they're very good. Yeah, really good. And then the other one that I've read fairly recently for dog lovers is Bodhi on the Road.
Oh, that's on my list.
Yeah, she's great. So she's a British writer based in the US. And at the end of the book, she moves back to the UK with her American dog. So that's kind of nice as well. Resonated with me a lot.
Yeah.
And the other two, just to make it a bit more international, are American author that I love this book, and he was kind of one of the inspirations for me doing all of my books as well. He's called Peter Gethers, and he's done a series. So the cat's called Norton, and it's about him finding a Scottish fold. And he was, well, I think he was given the cat. But he wasn't ever a cat lover, but he fell in love with this cat and then traveled around the world with him. So that was one of my real favorites, and especially it being set in Paris, it was great. Yeah. And then this one is by a Japanese writer, and it's called Traveling Cat Chronicles, and it's very nice because it's very slow paced. It's, the others are kind of probably a bit more up tempo, but this one's very delicate and it has a nice message at the end. So I like all of them. I couldn't tell you which one I prefer.
Yeah. I'll put them on our reading list for book club.
Yeah,
I'll let them choose the next one.
I'd like you to hear what you think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have done a little review actually for your book, and I'll send it to you, which I'm going to
fabulous
later. But if anyone wants to buy a copy of this, where can they get it from? Where's the best place?
Probably in the UK would be Waterstones. I've seen that it's available in Falls, the bookshop in London, which I loved. When I went back to the UK a couple of years ago, I went there with my friend, and to think that my book's there, I was ecstatic when I found that out. Amazon, obviously, Book Depository, all of the major ones. All the
major ones. Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Good luck for the future, and we'll keep in touch and see what you're up to.
Yeah, sure, definitely love to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.